Hey programmers, what is going on? I'm the Savage Coder, and this is, I don't know what episode. I'm just making this little generic opener that I can use to split up the email verification videos because it was so long. I'm going to release it as separate episodes. So with that, we're going to jump right back into the one that was before this one, wherever that was, and we'll continue from there. So let's get back to the code, but first, all right, so we've got to add something here to our API, to our website, so that we can process that link when someone clicks on it. So again, we're looking to have a page called verify email that takes a GUID. So let's go and look at our controllers. We have a user management controller. This seems like the perfect place to do this. All right, so now we need something to handle when the link is clicked in the email. So it's going to route to this page. So we want to give it a public eye action result because we're going to return a view here. And it's just going to be called verify email. And in the end, this is just going to return a view called, I guess we'll call it email verified, right? So we need to make a view called email verified. And so we'll right click user management and we will add a view. We will call it, it'll be an empty razor view, and we will call it email verified. And so all this is going to do is it's just going to really say, I don't know, email verification success. Click here to log in, and then we can have an redirect to action, I think. So let's look at we're already in here. We have sign up. We have login async. That's what we'll do. So redirect to action result, and no. Actually, let's not do that. Let's just put an href, and we will go to / user management / login. And then click here to log in. We'll be inside. So short and sweet. And then inside the controller here, we don't want to just send them. We want to actually verify the email. So what does verifying the email mean? It means we're going to go into the database and we're going to compare, right? They're clicking on a link in their email and they're going to pass us this value. And so we have to pull up this row and look at the value, and if it matches what we're being sent, then we can flip the is confirmed to true. If it doesn't match this, that means that somebody else is probably sending us this email, or it's an outdated verification link, and so we want to send them to another page that says your verification data didn't work, click here to resend, and we can repeat the process. So first thing we need to do is be able to read the value that we're being sent from, from this Shark Lasers email. When I click this, it's going to go to verify email and pass this. So we got to be able to capture that inside our UI. So verify email needs to grab a string called verification data. And that's going to come to us from a route. And the route's going to be verify email slash, need some quotes in here. So verify email slash verification data. So the route will match what you click in the browser, because when we click this link here, this is the link that's going to get copied up into like the URL here. So what we're telling the page is, hey, if you see verify email, then we're telling MVC, hey, this route covers verify email, so you're going to run this method. And then we're saying anything after the slash in verify email, right, is our stuff here. So we're going to capture that as a variable called verification data, and ASP.NET will automatically bind this to this variable. So it'll read it out of the route and pass it in as a variable. So then in here, we could do the stuff here, but really that's what our service layer is for. So we're just going to, we're going to call our user management service, and we're going to say verify email, and we're going to pass the verification data to it. And this is going to return us some kind of a true or false, right? And we're going to have to go to the database. So we know this is going to be async. And so, sorry. We know this is going to be async, so it's going to have to be awaited. And then in here, we'll add async, and we'll make this a task of action result. And so this is going to return us a variable that says, yes, it's good, or no, it's not good. So we'll just call that verified, which will be a Boolean. And so now we can alt enter on here and generate our method for our interface. But if you look here, it's just returning a task where we're expecting back a bool. So we're going to have to go change that. If you wanted to avoid that and you wanted it to get it right, you wouldn't be able to put var here. Because we haven't created this, and because we're not using var in any real way here, it has no way to infer that it's going to be a Boolean. So if you wanted to do bool here, then when you hit alt enter here, you can see it'll be a task of bool. But I like to make all of my variables vars. I think it's easier for me. So I'd rather take the extra time now. I'll hit enter to generate that, and then I'll go to the interface and I'll just make it a task of bool. It's not that hard. So now I'll go into my user management service, which is complaining because, hey, you added something to your interface and it's not implemented here, and this class implements this interface. You got to do it. I'm going to alt enter, implement interface, and it will add my verify email here. So first thing I need to do is I need to grab the user by the verification data, because I don't have anything from my database right in this link. All I'm passing is this value. But I can go to the database and say, just read through all the users and find me that value. If it's not there, then it's a fake link. So what I want to be able to do here is I want to make this also async. And then we will await our call. And this is going to return the Boolean eventually. Well, let's see. Maybe we're not at the return yet. We're at least going to var user equals. And we're going to call our user management repository. And we're going to call get user by verification. And then we'll pass the verification data. And I think all we need back here is the user ID, right? Because we're either going to get, we didn't find it, or we're going to get the user ID, and then we need to update that user ID's is verified and get rid of the old verification data. So let's call it get user ID by verification. So this will be a user ID that we're bringing back. We don't need the whole user. And it's probably a better idea of not returning data we don't need right now, lighter overhead for our API, less data across the wire, and this is a more specific use of what we're really looking for. So again, I'm going to Alt-Enter on this to add my generate method, and control-clicking it, going there. It's going to return a task of int. And now I can go into my user management repository and Alt-Enter again and implement the interface. It put it up at the top. I don't know why. I like adding new things to the bottom. So let's just go down to the bottom. And really, all of this magic is going to happen in the API. And the reason that we're not going to do it here, reaching out to the database directly, yes, this runs on a server and we could easily do that. But by always calling out to our API, we're allowing an upgrade of technology, and we're allowing scalability. What I mean by that is our API may not get the same amount of load that our web server gets. So consider that your web server is getting all this traffic and it's delivering all this HTML and all these web pages, right? And the data it needs comes from the API. So it's just sending over the actual user's data, which is very small, especially because things are zipped, you know, over the wire from server to browser. So it's very likely that your web server could get overrun faster than your API could get overrun. And by keeping them separated, you could add servers to your web server without adding servers to your API. So you can scale them individually so that you can really control how traffic lays out in your whole topology on the network. So that helps the network guys with the ability to tweak things. In addition to that, if you ever wanted to replace MVC and go with a React front end, or even have a mobile device, Android, iPhone, and you wanted that to have its own front end, those could call out to the same API. The functionality is all back in the API. You can just build a new front end this way. If we put this logic into the website in the MVC side, then everything's there. And if you want to stand up a mobile device, now you've got to rewrite all that code for mobile. So it is a better idea to be able to call back to the server in MVC and have it call an API call. So we're going to do that, and we've already kind of done that in these things here. We're going to be doing a get, which is not like a sign up or a login. Those are both posts, but we're going to kind of do the same thing here. So I'm going to paste that in, and we're going to add not API token, but we're going to add API. Let's look at our API and see what we have. So we've got users. We could do a users/verify. So let's do that. So we'll do users and verify email. And that's going to be a, I guess we could leave it a post. Although this is a get user ID, so it really is a get. So we're going to change this to get JSON. And I believe that returns. Well, first let's set it up here. I don't think we need this receive JSON. And I think what we're going to get back is just a user ID. But we may want to add things to that later. So let's call this a verify email result. And let's make that model. Let's go into our models, add class verify email result, and the only thing it's going to have in there today is the user ID that we're going to get. And then we also need a model to send. So let's add a class. You know what? No, let's not do that. Let's just make this a verify email model. And I'm going to rename this file as well. Oop. Pasted the whole thing. Verify email model. All right, and it has a user ID. So this can be a verify email model. Probably went against my own naming conventions using the word model there, but verify email. Let's call it a request. That's probably a better name. Yeah, let's rename this. Verify email request. So that renamed the model, and yeah, I did an control RR on that, so it renamed everything for me. And now in here, we just want to say, oh, this is actually a verification data. It's verification data, I made a mistake there. So we got to fix that. We got to change the string coming in. That's what our model has. Whoops. So it has that, which is a string. Okay. So now we can pass that guy, and then we're just going to get back an int. And so we will, let's do a var user ID equals. What is the problem? URI does not contain a definition for get JSON async. It doesn't. I thought it does. Yes, it does. I must, well. Get JSON async. Oh, it doesn't have a body, actually. Of course. So this verify email is going, because it's a get. You know what? We don't even need this model. We just need this guy to be interpolated. So
Whatever.
I can just do that. And then I don't need this. I can just delete this verify email request. And then I can say if, what is this? This is an int. So I'm going to want to return
Whatever.
a number. So I'll say if user ID is greater than -1, right? So I'm gonna have the database return me a -1 if it can't find this verification data. So if it's greater than -1, well, so I'll do this, but I wouldn't do this way. Then I'll return true, right? It found something. Otherwise, return false. And oh, sorry, I'm returning the number. All right, then I guess we can just return it then. Yeah, let's do that. So just go ahead and find and return. Oop. So we'll call out to the API, we'll call verify email with the code. If we find a number, we want to return the ID if we find the user. If we don't find the user, then we return -1. So now we have to implement this back in the API. So let's go back to the users in the API controller, and we're going to make an HTTP GET. We're going to have a route, and the route is going to be API users verify email, and then verification data. It is going to be a public async task of action result. It is going to be a verify email, and it's going to take in a string called verification data. And so with that, I will await a call to the user service, and we will call this verify email. Or do we want this to be called verify email at all? Get user by ID. I think this is better. Let's Yep, we're going to change this to users. We can call it verify email on the API side. But then inside here, inside verify email, I'd like to go back to what we're actually getting. So get user ID by verification, passing in the verification data. And so that's going to return the user ID, right? Whether or not we find it. And we can decide how we want to return this data, whether we want to throw an exception. Probably be smart to say, hey, verify this data, and then return a 404 not found if you don't find it. That's kind of good. So let's do that. Let's just say if user ID is less than or equal to 0, return not found. Otherwise, return user ID. And we probably want to do something better than that, like some kind of JSON. So maybe what we can do is we can return some kind of an object. Let's do that. That's a little cleaner. So let's make a class called verify email response. Oops, I misspelled that. Try again. Rename verify Okay, and it'll just have the user ID in it. So we're either going to return the user ID so we'll return OK with the verify email response object. So let's change that. Nope, that's not going to work. So we don't want to create this unless we make it to here. Right, so we'll call this service, we'll say, hey, here's the data, find me the user ID. If we don't find the user ID, it'll be -1, which is less than or equal to 0. We'll return not found. Otherwise, we'll package up the user ID in a nice little object that we can turn into JSON and return it like an API should. So let's Alt-Enter here and make sure that this is good. This needs to return a task of int. It's going to actually bring back a user ID. And then in the user service, let's implement that interface with an Alt-Enter again. So in here, if you look at what we're doing in these other ones, when we reach out to the database, we actually are calling out to the user repository. So we're going to do that again. So this needs to be async because we're going outside for some data. So var user ID is equal to await user repository dot, and we'll call it the same thing, and we will pass it the verification data that we got. I will Alt-Enter this. And this is going to be a task of int. And the user repository, we will Alt-Enter that guy as well. A lot of repetitive tasks here. Where'd it go? There it is. And so now I just need to do a get. So here's a get that actually goes to the database. So I'm going to just copy this whole try catch. Paste that in there. All of this is good. The only thing that's not good is that and the verification data param. And now I'm going to make an STP users get by verification. And it's going to return an int. And this is going to be async. And it's a stored proc. It's getting the parameters. We check for the result. We grab the first one. If the result is not null, then we return the result. If it is null, we're going to return -1, we said. And that should do that. So now let's create that proc. So stored procedure, right click, new, stored procedure. And this time I'm going to do something a little different. I'm just going to paste the name there. Here's a get by user, so that's similar to what I want. I'm just going to copy all of it and delete all this stuff and paste. And now I can Control X to cut that out. I will replace the comment. I will replace the name of the proc. Whoops. And this is going to be at verification data. And now we can say all we want is the user ID. So I'm going to get rid of all these other ones. From users, I don't need to know about any items. Where user ID, so now we want where verification data equals at verification, not two ats, one and no at here. And we also want to make sure that there's a value. Let's rerun this. We want to make sure that there's going to be a value in verification data, so that's not null, and we want to make sure is confirmed is false. And well, we could make sure that it's active as well, not as important. So let's do is confirmed. So verification data not null, and is confirmed is false. So verification data is equal, and u.verification data is not null, and u dot is confirmed equals 0. Or yeah, I think I like 0. 0 and 1. It's really a bit field, so yeah, I think that's going to be good. And this becomes a create because we copied it from the other alter. We don't need this stuff. And so I'm going to execute that. Boom. And so now if we, oh, this is a varchar actually. Let's see what that is. That's a mistake. Where is it? Verification data is a varchar 50, so this needs to be varchar 50. We'll get an error if we run this again because it's already there. So now, since it's already there, we need to change it to an alter and run that. So now if we copy this and we grab the actual GUID value, copy. So we should get the user ID back. There's a syntax near whatever. Oh, because this needs to be in quotes. It is a varchar. So we get back user ID 16. If we put the wrong number in here, like something that's not going to match, then we get null. So we are good to go with the proc. Where is my API? Here we go. So this should work fine and should return to the user service. So this is going to be a -1 or a 1. We can really just return this. We don't need it. And this gets called by this guy. So we'll say if it's less than 0, return not found. Otherwise, missing a semicolon there. User ID and return OK. So once you return that OK back to here, it's going to return. It should return the int back to the service. The service is going to get the user ID here. So we can just return. Oh, actually, no, we can't. So this is going to be, let's undo that. So this is going to return us a number. So what we want to do here is we want to say return user ID is greater than -1. So if it's greater than -1, then we know we found something, we return true. And if it is -1 or less technically, then we'll return false. Cool. So now we've got our user management service returning back to our controller. So this will come back true or false now, right? It's going to be a Boolean, and then we can return your email verified. So we can just say if verified, then go ahead and return this view. Otherwise, return another view that kind of says like verify failed is the name of that view. Verify. Okay, I don't know why that looked weird. So I'm going to go back to my views, user management, and I'm going to make a view called verify failed. And here it'll just say something like, sorry, we were not able to verify that email link. Perhaps it expired. And you can add expired stuff. Click here to send a new verification link. And then we can add that functionality in. So let's build, see how we're doing. Good, and let's go to our API, build that. Good. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what it does. Okay. So first thing I want to do before I lose it, because this, we actually we need to do something else now that I think about it. Yeah, let's do that now. So when we verify this, right, we're selecting this. There's something else we want to do. We want to clear out this old verification data. We want to null that. So I think what we're going to do is let's declare a variable, and then instead of just selecting it back, we're going to select user ID into that variable, and then at the end we can select user ID back out to the calling code. So right now this will do the exact same thing. If we execute this and we run this again, it still will give you null back, and was that a 9? Yeah, and then it gives you back 16. So the only thing, if you notice, is the column name's not there anymore. Let's close this, we don't need that. So we're going to say user ID as user ID, and execute that again. And so now it'll say user ID up here. And if you get it wrong, then it returns a null. So the null is wrong. We want that to, well, no, we handled null as -1. So the null is fine. So the one thing that we do want to, do here is once we run this select, we want to say if at user ID is not null, then run this block. And this block is going to update users let's make that, that's fine. Set verification data equal to null where users.user ID is equal to user ID. And so what'll happen here is we'll go and we'll verify, we'll look up the user by verification data. As long as it's already not null and it's still not confirmed, we'll assign the user ID 16 in this case that we find to this variable. And then we'll say as long as it's not null, because it should have 16 in it, then go ahead and update the users table and wipe out the old verification data for that user ID. And if you don't find it and it is null, then don't do anything. So if we run this, let's filter this down a little bit. So just show me user ID and verification data. Okay. So you can see 16 has this value. So if we get it wrong, take that 9 out, then it's null, and if we rerun this, it's still there. It's fine. It didn't find it. But if it does find it, we execute. It returns the 16, but it should have now gone in there. If we re-execute, this GUID should disappear. And it didn't. Whoops. Why didn't it? Did I not execute that? Let me execute that again and try one more time. Oh yeah, now it's working. I must not have run it. So now we're good. So one thing I got to do is I have to put it back so we can actually test this. So let's go back, users, edit. Let's re-execute here. And let's go to here and paste and jump out of the row. So now it should be back. Cool. All right, back to code. So what we want to do is let's put a breakpoint in the UI code where let's start it at let's start it right here. So let's make sure our email is actually running this. So if we go back to Shark Lasers, if I can find that browse, I don't have it. There it is. Okay. So if I click this link, the verification data comes through on the link, and now I'm going to call out to our service, and the service is going to pass along the verification data to our repo. Our repo is going to call out to our API at verify email / verification data. So let's go put a breakpoint before we call that in our controller. Here's verify email. I'm going to put a breakpoint right there. And I'm going to just hit step over here. And here we are. Our verification data is now in our API. We're going to try and look up that user, going to the service, passing the data along to our SQL call. We make the call. Looks like we got one thing back. It is a 16. It's not null, so we're going to return that value. We're going to return that value. The user ID comes back as 16. It is greater than 0. So now it's going to create its response and send that response back to the caller, which is our UI. So let's go back there. Unfortunately, this is going to return it. We might not catch it. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here. just to see if we can make sure we catch it. All right, I'm just going to let this go because we're done here. So I'm just going to hit continue. And I don't know if we actually, yeah, we didn't catch it here. Oh, yeah. So it says, could not deserialize JSON from this call. Unexpected character. So something's wrong here. Let's see. So when we call this, I think I know what the problem is already. So we're returning an okay result here, which is not... Let's see. All right. Let's go back and reset our database so we can do this again. So I just need to, well, that's one thing we can check before I reset this. Let's execute that. It is null, so it did update. So most of it worked. Let's re-execute this SQL. And we'll put that value back. Get out of that row. Okay, let's go back to Shark Lasers. If I can find it. Keep losing Shark Lasers. Where did you go? Ah, here we are. So let's just close that. Let's just re-click this link now. So we already know that some of this stuff works. So I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to step over this. I'm going to let the... I'm going to put a breakpoint on the return here. So my response is this user ID 16 object. And I think because of that, yeah, I'm getting this verify email response object returned. That's why it's failing. Because I'm returning an object and I told the UI to expect an int, which it's not the same. So notice I'm returning an int here, which is not what this is returning. So the easiest way to do this is to go to our API and find in our models the verify email response and just make this same class on the user side. I mean on the web side. Whoops. Well, verify email response. And it's just going to have a user ID. So now I can say, well, this is going to not return. Let's make it a variable name. Okay, so now I'm going to go out, it's going to return this thing, and then I can say if verify email response is not equal to null, then return, well, actually, there's an easier way to do this. I can just say return verify email response dot user ID otherwise -1. What is your problem? Oh, because an int can't be null. Oh, but yeah, I guess we can probably just do that. You know what? I think we can just do this. Why are you having a problem here? Oops. The verify email response is an int. Oh, because this is casting it to int. I'm going to return one of these from this call and then user ID. I don't think I can do that anyway because it's an int. Yeah, because it's not nullable. The whole thing could be null though. Yeah, it won't like that because of the int. I don't know if there's another way to write that. So, all right, let's just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll say if verify email response equals null, then return -1. Otherwise, return verify email response.user ID. So there you go. So now let's try everything again. Okay, everything's running. Let's go back to the database and paste that value back in. I should have just written an update statement for this that I could keep executing, but I think we're there. Now I can find my lost shark lasers. There. And click the link. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so we return now. The user ID came back as 16. And verified is true, so it will return me to email verified. Well, if I wouldn't have misspelled the view, I just saw that. Email via verified. Save. Hot reload. All right. Let's kill this again. Let's reset one more time. And let's click this link. I'm going to disable all breakpoints. No, not delete, just in case. Disable and re-enable that one. And then same thing in the API. I will disable all. There's our verified. Redirect to that view. Email verification success. Click here to log in. I go and have the wrong login link. I'm not sure what my actual login link was. Looks like user management / where's the login? There's sign up. Is the default view maybe login? I think that's what we did. Index login. Yeah. Yeah. All right. then in email verified, we just do that. So, so it just tried to re-verify the email, and it's blowing up. So we probably want to handle that. So let's debug that. So now everything's gone, everything's verified. Let me go back to the actual link. Let's put our breakpoints back on. Debug, enable all breakpoints. API, debug, enable all breakpoints. And let's click the link. So now this shouldn't work, but it also shouldn't fail either. So let's see where the breakdown here is. Oh, looks like we failed already. Let's do it again. So we're calling out to the API. Here's the API. We call into the service. We call into the repo. And I think the SQL is throwing an exception. Yeah. Error parsing column 0 user ID equal null. So we're sending, oh, okay. So the problem is inside the proc. So let's look at our proc here. So we select this, blah, blah, blah. This comes back and user ID is null. I say if it's not null, then do this. And then I say select null as user ID. Let's see. If we run this, yeah, that seems okay. So what's the exception? Null object cannot be converted to a value type. Error parsing column 0, user ID null. So let's run that one more time. It won't let me. I'm going to put a breakpoint right on this execute. And let's kick that off one more time. Just go. Just go. Okay, here we are. So we're not passing any nulls in, but it blows up immediately. Error parsing column 0. Let's look at the details. Oh, it opened on another window. Let's see here. It's got an inner exception. So let's see the inner exceptions message. Null object cannot be converted to a value type. So it looks like a Dapper problem. That it's expecting an int back and it gets a null. So I'm going to say, let's try making this. Oop. Can we make it a nullable int? Let's see what that does. No, it doesn't like that. Oh, because now... cannot implicitly convert a nullable int to an int. So if results are not null, So what I'm saying here is go ahead and grab the first thing, and if it's null, just return a -1 anyway. Otherwise, use that. Let's see, that should make it happy enough to not blow up. Okay. Yeah, and now 404 not found. Verify email. Oh, it just returned a not. So what happened is we got back to the user's controller and it returned a not found. So let's see how the UI would handle that 404. I'm just putting breakpoints in all of these spots. All right, let's do it again. All right, go. Okay, so here we go. We're running and returning 16. Well, we're returning. Whoa. It did not go back. It looks like it's immediately firing that 404. So we call the user service. So let's go back from there. Okay, it returns a not found to whatever is calling verify email in the API. Which is this. And for some reason, that is returning the 404. And it looks like, I think I know what's going on. I think it's throwing an exception at that point. So I think what we need to do in here, when we call the API, there's, what's the name of this package? Floral. Floral has a way to suppress, to allow non-200s not as exceptions. And I don't remember what it's called, but allow HTTP status. Wait, what is it? It is a system.net.http status code. HTTP status code dot. Let's bring in the system.net namespace. And so now I can say kind of allow not found in addition to any of the 200s. All right, let's see if that stops it from blowing up. Yes, here we go. Yeah, See now, if you look in this response, the user ID is 0. So this is not going to work. So we want to make sure now that this is that the user ID of 0 is the condition. So we can say if it equals null, or if it equals 0, then go ahead and return -1. So the funny thing is, how is it getting 0 in there? Oh, because we're not really returning anything at that point. Can we, I don't know if we can include a body with those. There is. So you know what? Let's do this then. Let's create that guy and put this in the body. So now it should be -1. And then only if it blows up do we have to force the -1. All right. So remember, we're testing here that the user is already verified. Whoops. I think I needed to restart some things here. Let me stop both and restart. And then let's try this. Boom. Oops. So verified in this case is false. And it'll load the other view saying sorry, and then we can just start the whole process again. And so that is how, one way anyway, of adding verification email capabilities to your web project and API. I think some things you could add on there are some expiration dates, so that if you store the date that the link was, just add another column to the users table called verification date, or maybe verification generation date or something like that. Then you can check the date and make sure only a certain amount of time has passed, otherwise the link has expired. The other thing you really need to do is when you log in, you need to put an additional check on if the user is already verified. That way you let them log in with the correct login and password, and before you route them to your to the site, before you probably issue them a token, you would want to redirect them to a page that says, hey, your login was successful, but you still need to verify your email. Please click this link if you haven't received your email, verification link, and then just kick off the same flow again. So if you have specific questions about this, or you want me to go deeper into certain parts of this, feel free to leave a comment. I will be more than happy to revisit. If there's something else you'd like to see, let me know, and we can do that. I do think that this video probably took like 3 hours to put together, and I don't know that anybody's gonna watch this for 3 hours, so I don't think I'm gonna do this process often. But if you really want to see some behind the scenes, trials and tribulations, and how I'll rethink things on the fly and go, no, let's not even create that. That's the real process. But it's not always the best teaching tool. So good to see behind the curtain, but not always something that I think I'm going to do. So let me know if you enjoyed this. Let me know if you want more of these kind of videos. Let me know any subjects you want to dive into, and we'll do it together. So with that, I will see you soon online.